Guys, welcome back. The fight of the year is about to be upon us. UFC 284, February 11th, and we have the 2 pound for pound kings going against each other for the lightweight belt in the UFC. Let's get right into it. We have Islam Makhachev, the current champion, 23-1, the lightweight king of the division. He is coming in at a crazy favorite at a minus 365. He has a 70.5-inch reach. He took the belt from former champion Charles Oliveira with a beautiful submission in Abu Dhabi. He obviously has wins over Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, Drew Dauber, and he is on an 11-fight win streak. The event is going to be in Perth, Australia at the RAC Arena. His opponent, obviously you know, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, and he is 25-1, and he is the featherweight king of the division, and arguably we have to say he's the best featherweight of all time, and for sure in UFC history. Let's get into it. At a stature of 5'6", he obviously has given up a good amount of height to Islam Makhachev. But believe it or not, he has a very good reach. He actually has a 1-inch reach advantage on Makhachev. His record speaks for itself. He won 3 times against Max Holloway. He has wins over the Korean Zombie, Brian Ortega, and UFC Hall of Famer Jose Aldo. He is on a 12-fight win streak. Together, these guys are 23 fights unbeaten, and they are on a collision course this Saturday night for the undisputed pound-for-pound title and ranking. Obviously, the one who has most to lose is Islam, because he is potentially can lose his belt. I like this fight for Volkanovski. I don't think he has anything to lose. If he beats Islam, he just becomes the GOAT. If he loses, then it doesn't even matter because at least he tried. Honestly, like you can't even knock the guy for trying to go against a beast like Islam Makhachev. Obviously, you know, Makhachev, former trainer, was Abdul Nurmagomedov, and that's Khabib Nurmagomedov's father. He was trained also by Khabib Nurmagomedov and Javier Mendez from AKA Boxing in San Jose. Makhachev has all the tools. He has the striking, the wrestling, and the fight IQ to beat anyone in the lightweight division. I love that the UFC is giving us a super fight. There's nothing more exciting than super fights. And this Saturday, you guys are really in for a treat. You have two of the best talents in the world who are giving up the bullshit, the politics to really make history Saturday night. So I'm really excited. Obviously, we're going to have to rock with Makhachev. He's the bigger fighter. He's the stronger fighter. The fighter with a master in sports of combat sambo. And remember, like I said in all my podcasts, if they have a beard and no mustache, you need to know how to wrestle. And in this case, you have the beard and no mustache, and we have an insane grappler in Makhachev. I'm not going to say that Volkanovski's a slouch, that he's not going to put up a good fight. And I think if it was anybody else, I truly believe he would be a double champ. But I believe that Makhachev is just going to be a little bit too much for him Saturday night. And I still give him tremendous respect for Volkanovski for stepping up. And I follow him his whole entire career, and I watch all of the cooking videos that he does on Instagram. He's a beast, and he just made recently the Dagestani shashlik on his page, and that shit was fire in the air fryer. Easy. Like anybody could do that shit. Like, yo, he's a champ in the octagon, out the octagon. He's just the people's champ. So I'm really excited for this main event. It's going to be on 10 p.m. Eastern time. And this is going to be a really big super fight. But let's go into the co-main event. And another thing I want to bring up is why the fuck is this fight not getting promoted intensely? Like, the only thing that I'm seeing on the UFC's page is power slap. And as much as I love that shit, there's nothing better than watching somebody get slapped and knocked out. But I do believe it's a big disrespect to the magnitude of this card, and I do believe they should be promoting this with full force. The co-main event is another very significant fight. It's for the featherweight interim title bout. In a sense, since Volkanovski is fighting Makhachev, they got to figure out who's next in line to fight Volk when he decides to come back down to defend this title. So these two guys are no slouches either. We have Yair Rodríguez Pantera, the number 2 ranked featherweight, 15-3, versus Josh Emmett, 18-2, absolute killer. Let's go over a little bit of their records. Yair Rodríguez had a win against Brian Ortega at the UBS Arena. We watched it live. It was a very quick fight. Ortega got hurt. Whether he got hurt due to Yair conflicting the damage or it was something else, it was a little bit of a short fight, and we didn't get to see much of Yair. We obviously saw him going against 5 rounds against Max Holloway. He had a beautiful win over Jeremy Stevens. He had an insane highlight reel finish that is just was ripping the internet versus the Korean Zombie with that like underground slip elbow. It was like a buzzer beater knockout. And he lost to Frankie Edgar, who is a freaking legend. His opponent, which a lot of you are going to sleep on because you probably don't recognize him with the ginger beard that he's grown out recently. But Josh Emmett is a killer. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and he's taken out the lights of Calvin Kattar, Dan Ige, Shane Burgos, Miguel Lachowicz, and he knocked out Michael Johnson. Everybody that he's fighting are very durable and very difficult opponents. None of these guys you can say are cakewalk fights. And a lot of the fights he got hurt and he had to power through. So what do I think about between these two? I like Yair. He's very technical. He throws punches and bunches. But I do believe if he's going to try to slug it out with Josh Emmett, he will get knocked out. Josh Emmett is the type of guy you don't go punch for punch with. Taking too many shots from a guy like Josh Emmett, it's lights out. And I don't see Yair possessing the power to knock Emmett out. Emmett is a very durable wrestler. He trains out of Team Alpha Male, where Uriah Faber is in Sacramento, California. He's an absolute workhorse. He is a massive, massive featherweight. I believe he might be one of the strongest featherweights, if not probably the second strongest compared to Alexander Volkanovski, who was a freaking freak of nature. But Emmett carries massive power. They have him as the underdog at plus 140, and I really like that because even if I didn't see the betting odds, my heart is to rock with Emmett. He's very powerful, a very all-around game, and I think Yair is in for a really, really rough night. A lot of people are claiming that Emmett doesn't really deserve this interim title fight. I disagree. I don't see a lot of people who earn it or didn't earn it, but he's fought the best. He's willing to fight Yair for an interim title bout, even if this wasn't for a title. This fight, regardless, belt or no belt, decides who's going to fight next for the belt. The fact that they're going to make it 5 rounds and just put some bogus belt in between them, I like it also. And I like that both fighters are going to really, really boost their stock because the main event is just top notch. This is really probably one of the biggest fights the UFC is going to make this year, at least most insignificance wise. The next fight that I want to bring up is Jack Della Maddalena versus New York's own a Queens boy, Randy Rude Boy Brown. And just to go over the facts, Jack is a fighter from the Dana White's Contender Series. He's currently 4-0 under the UFC promotion. His only 2 losses were in the beginning of his career, and he's on a 13-fight win streak, which is very significant. He's fighting in Australia, so essentially this is home court advantage. Obviously, New Yorkers don't care about home court advantage. We'll pull up anywhere. And obviously, Randy is going to straight up pull up to Australia and he's going to have to whoop that ass. So they have Randy as the underdog at a plus 265. And I cannot bet against anybody that's from New York. We've met Randy in UBS. He is absolutely down to earth and he's an absolute killer. He's no slouch himself. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He got a win over Francisco Trinaldo. He got Chaos Williams. He beat Jared Gooden. And he had a win over Alex Oliveira. He's fought top quality opponents in the UFC. He has massive, massive experience, and he knows how to fucking fight. I do believe that if you're going to go with a massive, massive upset, you got to rock with Randy Brown. I just do believe he has all the tools in his arsenal to upset Jack Della Maddalena. I know it's home court. I know you like what you've seen. Maddalena has wins over Danny Roberts, Ramazan Nemayev, Pete Rodríguez, and he had a beautiful performance on the Contender Series. But like I said, everyone's always due for a loss. And I do believe this night he will get tripped up. So we're really hoping for the Jamaican, Randy Rude Boy Brown, to seal the deal that night and be the biggest upset of that night. The next card I want to get into is another guy who's going to have a beautiful home court advantage, and that's Justin Badman Tafa. And he's going against a UFC veteran and Parker Porter. The odds on this fight are very close because they're heavyweights, and it's like any punch can swing, for a knockout because these guys carry massive power. They're both at the top of the weight class, probably going to be pushing 265 on the scales, the both of them. But let's go over the odds. Let's go over some of the stats about them. So you have Justin Tafa, who has a beautiful win over Harry Hunsucker. He had a beautiful knockout. He lost 2 fights in a row prior, had a win, and he actually had a massive, he got knocked out like crazy by this guy, Jorgen De Castro. Believe it or not, he's like a high school security guard. He had a cool little run in the UFC, and I think now he's fighting in like Eagle FC and Khabib's league. So his entry-level debut, he had a knockout loss, came back with a beautiful win, 2 more losses, and just kind of boosted up his stock with that knockout. I do believe fighting at home is going to give him a beautiful advantage against Parker Porter, who lost his last fight against one of the most incredible upcoming UFC heavyweights, and you must keep your name out, and that's Jailton Almeida. He is not a big UFC heavyweight, but he is agile, he's quick, and he's powerful. And he knows how to finish his guys and grind them out. He had also a win against Alan Boudreaux. He had a win over Chase Sherman. He had a win over Josh Parisian, but he lost to Chris Daukaus. Between these two guys, the lines are very tight. You have Tafa, who's the favorite at a minus 125, and Parker, who's at an underdog at a plus 105. Very close. It's a coin flip fight. My heart is telling me I'm just going to rock with the home court advantage. They're in Australia. It's his side of the world. It's his time zone. And I'm going to let it be his time to knock out Parker Porter. So if this fight's going to go anyway, it's only going to go by knockout, and it's going to go to Justin Tafa. For the opening main event of this card, this one is going to be a really, really exciting match between 2 very violent light heavyweights. So let's get into it. One of them is Jimmy Crute, the number 12 ranked light heavyweight, and he's going against Alonzo Menifield. Jimmy Crute, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, and his last loss was to Jamal Hill, which is obviously the current champion of the light heavyweight division. He beat Glover Teixeira. He knocked out Jimmy Crute. It just makes sense. There was no way Crute was taking that killer. He lost to Anthony Smith. He had a win over Modakis Bakakis. He had a win over the Polish fighter Michael Oleksiejczuk, and he lost to Misha Sirkinov, and he had a win against Paul Craig. So Alonzo Menifield, 13-3. He beat Misha Sirkinov. He beat the Ukrainian Askar Mosharov, who already got kicked out of the UFC. He had a loss to William Knight. He beat Ed Herman. He beat Fabio Cherant. He had two losses also. He lost to OSP. He lost to Devin Clark, but he also beat Paul Craig. So like I said, these guys are almost bound to fight each other. They fought very similar opponents. They both have wins over Paul Craig. And Jimmy Crute actually lost to Misha, and Alonzo beat Misha his last fight. So I do, and they're both of them are from the Dana White's Contender Series graduates. You have Jimmy Crute, who graduated the 2018 class, and you have Alonzo Menefield, who's from the 2019. So I love this fight. It's a lot of pressure on Crute. He's coming at the favorite at minus 180. You have Alonzo Menefield, who's the underdog at a plus 155. I'm going to rock with Crute. I think he's going to, if this is a do or die fighter, I think he's going to come in really aggressive. He's very experienced, and I do believe he's going to take out Alonzo Menefield. Guys, this entire card is absolutely stacked. This is just the main event that I was able to go over. And I want to focus so much attention because since the company's not going to promote it, Notorious Pulls Radio is going to be bumping this. I cannot wait for Saturday night. I cannot wait to see who's going to be the pound for pound king. It's going to be Islam Makhachev. And guys, remember, if you want to show us the most support, please, we have amazing merchandise at Notorious Pulls. Always like, follow, subscribe us on all platforms, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.